त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देव. Sri Krishna Chakravarti Maharaj ki jai. This prayer is widely used with a deep meaning. A Jnani says the prayer, he says, Hey Bhagavan, you are like mother to me when I need a mother. You are there when I need a father. You are there like my father. You are here as my bandhu and my friend. Now the bandhu is the one who comes to help at the time of need, is there to help us. That is bandhu. So anytime we have difficulties, somebody who comes to help us, he is a bandhu. All that I know, and all that I have is all yours. Oh Bhagavan, you are my everything, and you are everything to me. So now, prior to getting into the next Gita Shlok, I like to briefly go into three gunas, because this thing keeps coming up all the time. So there are three gunas, and the entity where there is no situation, where there is no guna, that is called nirguna. In that state, gunas cannot come in and be effective. The three gunas have been described in detail in chapter 14 in Bhagavad Gita. The sansar exists in the Kal Chakra, the circle of time. The three gunas, Sattva, Raj and Tham, are the three modes of Prakriti. All activity in samsara happens within these modes of Prakriti. Now what is the mode of Prakriti? Mode means the way the Prakriti acts. These are the mode of action. And for each guna there is three levels of intensity. So when you take, one will be say high intensity, medium or low intensity. So for example, take tamogun. Tamogun has krodh as one of the characteristics of tamogun. Somebody who has got a lot of anger, the tamogun is working. In that krodh, there can be different intensities. He may be just a little bit upset, he may be really upset, or he may be so upset he can kill somebody. So there are three different levels of these gunas. So when you take these 3 and 3 and combine them, they become 9. So there are 9 graha. That's how the 9 graha come about. So these graha are like milestones in the circle of time. Kal Chakra, these are the milestones. So when somebody gets married in their home, what they do is graha shanti. So these graha don't interfere with the solemn ceremony of marriage. As we move through the chakra of Kal, we get handed over from one to the next graha. We are always in sansar, we are situated in the Kal Chakra, and Kal Chakra acts, it goes through graha. And as we move from one graha to other graha, we get different fruit of our actions. We do different actions and we experience different actions. Say for example, somebody has got Shani. That's very common, everybody knows Shani. So that Shani causes problem for the person. It can create illness, it could create losses of money, it could do all kind of stuff. So that is a tamogun. So after the Shani, fortunately all these graha have their definite time span. After that, you move on to the next one. It's not all the time only that you're going to be always in the same graha, under the influence of the same graha. So all karma are performed within the gunas. The three guna, that's where the karma happen. Prakriti has created this arrangement for conducting the activity of the Srishti. The meaning of the word guna in Sanskrit it's called rope. So three guna act as a three-stranded rope because these gunas don't exist just by themselves. They are always with each other. All three are together at one time. The difference is sometimes sattva may be in higher propensity and the next time tamoguna will be higher propensity. So the person who has got more tamoguna, he is tamoguni. He is going to act like that. And all his actions will be like that. And he is there because that's what he has earned in the previous lives and that is coming over to show him. It shows up right now. So guna means that all actions pertaining to sansar and the fruit thereof are strictly controlled by the gunas because everything happens in the guna. This is bondage of karma. That's what the bondage is because guna means to tie. The rope, what is the job of rope? To tie you up. So when the karma is done and it's going to be done in the prakriti, so that causes bondage. That's what Arjun keeps saying, that karma gives me bondage. Why do you want me to go through this horrendous karma action of fighting and killing people? Because karma itself is bondage and this is horrible bondage. So as long as we are in sansar, we have no choice. We are in three gunas and we will act in three gunas. If not, the gunas will make us do the action. There is no choice. No freedom in three guna sansar. Like Kabir says, आए हैं सो जाएंगे राजा रंक फकीर, एक सिंहासन चढ़ चले एक जाए बंधे जंजीर. So what is the action here? The action is to come in this world, to be born. That's the action. And what is the fruit of that action now? So jayenge. Those who come here, they must go. They must leave. There is no way other. That's the fruit. If you don't want to do that, then don't come in this world. Okay? That's what moksha is. So this is the thing which I wanted to point out. The guna is going to come. Now, Ishwar is separate from the Prakriti. So, Ishwar is nirgun. The gunas don't reach there. And so, Ishwar is everywhere at all time. Thus, he is anant. When you are under bondage, then you are limited. Anything which is bounded is limited by the bondage. But Ishwar is not under any bondage, is free, eternal. So Ishwar is everywhere. And is formless. See, when you want to make a form of something, like a statue, then you create a mold. And then you pour the metal or clay, whatever you want to make the murti of, in that mold. So that figure, that form is bound by the form of the mold. So that's how everything which has a shape and that is is under bondage, bound by the mold. So since Ishwar is not bound by anything, Ishwar can come and go whenever he wants to come and go. Whatever he needs to do, he does. Nobody can interfere with the work of Ishwar. There is no activity there either. But in the three gunas there is form and there is performance of action is required. It is a must. In guna there has to be action. So now we come to Gita. Last time where we stopped, Arjun did not want to fight and he was trying to give all kind of excuses for not doing that. And his state of mind was such that his body was shaking. He said, "My mouth is drying and his Gandhi is slipping away from his shoulder." He just could not hang on to that. So we stopped at that place. Now we had also talked about the first slok, and I want to clarify that a little bit today. In that slok, we said that why did Dhritarashtra ask the question? Why did he ask the question? What that he did? So I went into Mahabharata and I read some excerpts from there, which will show the intent of Dhritarashtra in asking the question in the first slok. In the 22nd chapter of Udyog Parv, Dhritarashtra tells Sanjay as to what he should tell Pandav, who were in the place called Uplavya. That's where their camp was. So he sent Sanjay, but before sending him there, he coached him what he should be telling him. Upon arriving in Uplavya and following all the rituals, all the introductions and formalities, Sanjay gives the message from Dhritarashtra. First, he praises Pandav. You are people of dharma. All kind of praises he showers them with. And then says that who would dare to win the army of Kaurav, which is protected by Karna. King Duryodhana has put together a large army. Whosoever wins, I see no good coming out of this war. He is speaking on behalf of Dhritarashtra. How can there be how can the son of Kunti can go through this horrendous action? I am sure Sri Krishna and Arjun will accept my request. See, Dhritarashtra was pointing to Krishna and Arjun. Not only this, Arjun will even give his life if I were to ask for it. And then what to say of the kingdom? I am suggesting this alliance, Sandhi, which will provide you with ultimate peace. So this was in 25th chapter. Just in short, I just brought some main points in here. So that's what Sanjay was telling to Yudhishthira, because he was the king of Pandav. In the next chapter, 26th chapter, Yudhishthira then replies to Sanjay. After listening to Sanjay, he tells him that all can be like it was before, but only when the Indraprastha will remain my kingdom, and Suyodhan returns my kingdom. That was the condition he put in there. There will be no war if you do that. Sanjay replied in this next chapter and said to Yudhishthira that you are a man of dharma. If Kaurav do not give the part of the kingdom to you without fight, even then, in my view, it will be better for you to live your lives on alms in the kingdom of Andhak and Vrishni Kshatriya. Become a sadhu. O son of Pandu, life is too short. You should not commit the sin by fighting. Even in anger, you never resorted to adharma. So why you want to act against your wisdom? He says to Yudhishthira that if you are doing this sinful war on the advice of your ministers, that means you're not doing it, somebody's provoking you to do that. Then you should give all to your ministers and you should go in Vanaprastha instead of killing your relatives. Because by doing this, you will destroy your ability to follow the path of dharma leading to devatas. In those days, the goal of human life was to achieve Swarga, the kingdom of Indra. So now we take the shlok. Next shlok which we are going to go into is, last time we saw why did Arjun act like the way he did. So this shlok says, Acharya pitara putras tathaiva cha pitamaha matula shashura pautra shala sambandha sthita. What was Arjun looking at the battlefield? He is there between the two armies. So he is looking, what he is looking in the battlefield. Who were there? Those with whom he is going to fight and he is going to kill them. He knew that. These were, he names them Acharya Gurus, the one who taught him. Uncles, Pitara, matlab, that means uncle. Sons, Putras, Tathaiva cha pitamaha, and also grandfather. They are all standing there lined up to fight. Matula means maternal uncle. Shashura, father-in-law. Pautra, grandchildren. And others from his mother's side, Shala, brother-in-law. Sambandha sthita, and many other relatives. That's all he saw there. Who he's going to fight with? They're all his relatives, his elders, his guru, all the young people. So that's what his state of mind was. He all of a sudden became affected by this. Now, if you go back to what Dhritarashtra told Sanjay to tell Arjun, this is exactly what he was telling Arjun. Why you want to kill your relatives and why you want to fight a war. See? So next shlok, Etan hantum ichhami natopi madhusudana api trailokya rajasya heto kinna muhi krite. He says to Bhagavan Krishna, even though they were to kill me, O slayer of Madhu, I do not wish to kill them. I would not kill them even for the domination of 3 lokas, much less for the sake of the earth, not become king of the earth. Even if I was to get Trilok, 3 lok, I would not do that. Here Arjun has knowingly addressed Bhagavan Sri Krishna as the slayer of demon Madhu. Because here Arjun is trying to invoke the principle of non-violence. He says, you like to fight. You killed so many demons. I don't think that's right. I should not be fighting. I don't want to be like that. He goes on to say, Nihatya dhratarashtrana ka priti sya janardana papamevashraya dasman hatvaetanat titayana. He says, here Arjun addresses Bhagavan Krishna as Janardhan. See, in the last slok he addressed him as Madhusudan. Now he is changing. He says, you are Janardhan. Janardhan means one who protects people. Janta Janardhan, the one who protects Janta. He says, you protect all people. You have mercy. You protect earth. Then why you are so desirous of killing them? What pleasure we will get by killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? although they are desperados, atitai, and felons, even though they are like that, what would we get by killing them? The Vishishta Smriti scripture describes 6 types of activities under which the action of desperado falls. These are: one who sets somebody on fire. That's called atitai, means terrorist in today's term. Gives poison to somebody. Attacks using a weapon. Robs money from someone. Take away farmland from somebody. And takes away somebody's wife. Runs away with them. They are atitai. In today's world, you can see these all these terrorists. That's what they resort to. And according to Arthashastra, it is no sin to kill them. Very clearly, if there is somebody who is doing the action of atitai, it's no sin to kill them. But according to Dharma Shastra, killing itself is a sin. Killing these desperados or atitais will be sinful. That's what Arjuna is saying. Because tasmatrahar vayam hantu dhatarashtan svabandhana bandhavan swajanam hi katham hatva sukhina syama madhava. Arjuna says that you are Madhav. Now he is using another name for Bhagavan Krishna. The most powerful, and would want to keep all happy. I should also try to act similarly. Sons of Dhritarashtra are our cousins. We should not be killing them. How can we be happy by killing them? Men and women all have to live in the society. The society has been there before we are born into it. We are all born into a society. We did not choose the society we were brought into. It is our duty to serve the society. That's what Arjuna is saying. We were born into and not to destroy it. The society and parents were chosen for us, whether we like them or not. It is our duty to serve them. This is our dharma, swadharma. Thus our dharma has been decided for us. Arjuna is saying the same when he says that our kinsmen are not of our choosing. That's what Arjuna is saying. I didn't choose them. They are there. They became our relative by birth. We are in the same Kul dynasty. We should protect our Kul. By killing them, we will be committing the sin of destroying the Kul. I am thinking along those lines. That's what Arjuna is thinking. Why our kinsmen on the other side do not think along the same line? He is questioning. I am thinking this way. Well, why they don't think like that? Why they want to fight? After posing this question, Arjuna now provides an answer to the same question. So he is putting a question and then he answers, try to answer it. Yadyapyate na pashyanti lobho pahata chetasa kulakshaya kritam dosham mitradrohe cha patakam katham na ye masmabhi papada smatri vartitam kulakshaya kritam dosham prapashyan janardana. Here Arjuna is answering his own question with a question. He is totally confused, isn't he? He is saying to Bhagavan Sri Krishna that due to greed, their thinking has been clouded. Here the word is upachetasa, which means in their thinking the power of discrimination, vivek, has disappeared. They are under the influence of greed. They are greedy now. So that's what made them upachetasa. Their power of discrimination is not there in their thinking. They are not thinking with reason. Now we will see to what does this mean. What does upachetasa mean? Within all of us, there is a group of faculties, four faculties, which are at work constantly, non-stop. This is called antahkaran. That means the powers which work within us, inside of us. These four are mind, mana, intellect, buddhi, consciousness, chitta, and ego, ahankar. These four are always working in concert for the performance of any action. The mind, which has been conditioned by our past experiences, gets information from the five senses, which are vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Our experience in the human body are part of our mindset and stay with us and molds our mind. And based on its past experiences, the mind thinks whether to do this or not to do this. Action. This is called sankalp, vikalp. This happens in the mind. The past experiences are from exposure to our past karma. Since all of us have different karma, our thoughts are different from one another. Thus, the field of action of the mind is limited to posing the question as to whether certain action be taken or not. Everybody thinks differently. The mind which keeps wandering is called unsteady or fickle mind. The intellect gives the decision, again based on the knowledge gained from all past experiences, as to which action will be most helpful. Nishchayatmaka buddhi. So, when somebody's buddhi goes away, they cannot decide what to do. They are lost. It is the buddhi which gives wisdom, which tells what to do, what is the right action for you at this time. It may not be right action for somebody else, but that person, that's what his buddhi says, and that's all conditioned based on the past karma. And the intellect gives reasoning to back its decision. It also tells why it is right for you to do this. Now the consciousness is the field in which thought, vritti, occurs. So consciousness, there are always thoughts occurring. Patanjali has said, yoga vritti chit nirodh. Yoga chit vritti nirodh. Chit ki vritti, the thought in our chit, consciousness, when you stop him, you slow him down, you are put him under control, that is yoga. Yoga is the restraint of mental operations. The fourth one is ego. This is very powerful. It is the I which causes the attachment of jiva to certain action. I, my, this is mine. I did this. This is the ego. When due to certain desire, calm, anger, krodh, or greed, the consciousness gets stuck on one thought and further thought stops. The consciousness will come depending on how angry we are or how greedy we are, whatever, that's where our consciousness will get stuck on that particular action. This state of consciousness is called upachetasa. This is what upachetasa means. So, when the consciousness gets stuck on something based on greed or anger or desire, that is the state called upachetasa. In this state of mind, one loses the sense of discrimination and reasoning. You cannot tell the person otherwise. They are stuck on this. This is what Arjuna is saying about the state of mind of sons of Dhritarashtra. Arjuna says that they, the son of Dhritarashtra, do not see the evil in destruction of the kul. Kulakshara kritam dosham. What is the evil in killing everybody in the kul, destroying the kul or the dynasty? And the sin in hostility to friends, mitra drohe chapatakam. O Janardhan, O Bhagavan Krishna, he's saying to Bhagavan Krishna, O Janardhan, as you protect all, I also have desire to protect all. Although Duryodhan and his party have been overcome with the forces of greed, why don't we try to free ourselves from committing this sin? They may be, but we should try to free ourselves from committing this sin. We do not have greed in our mind. We have knowledge, we have jnana. So why do we not try to have the understanding? Having said this, Arjun goes into the evil caused by destruction of the kul. Now he is giving more and more reasoning why the kul should not be destroyed. Kulakshaye pranashyanti kul dharma sanatana dharme nashte kulakrisnam adharmo bhavityuta. He says, when the kul is destroyed, women will become widows. And those who are pregnant, who is going to teach their kids the traditions of the kul? The proper meaning of this slok. We will need to understand, to understand this slok, we will need to understand the social system of that time. See, the thing is, we read these things and we try to look the way we are today. But that's not what it is. You have to go back and look from what it was at that time. So that time the social system was different than today. That's before 5,000 years or so or more. What was the system? In the 18 Akshohani army of all warriors, they were all young. At that time, the young meant that they were between the ages of 17 and 70. That's what young was. It's a different yuga. The lifespan was much longer than what is today. A Vatsyayan in Kama Sutra has as those between 17 and 70. That's what he calls youth. Of course, his definition of youth was based on the ability to produce children. All these young men had to go to war. Women didn't go to war like today. In this war, except for Bhishma, who was 170 years old, and Dronachar, who was 90 years old, everyone fell in this age group between 17 and 70. This included nearly all the population of the youth that was present in the war. Unlike today, in those days the population was not very large. Today there is abundance of people. There are more people than the earth can really support. Many people used to die from diseases, epidemics, and wars. There were a lot of wars those days. Therefore, the families were concerned about having children to continue the family. People got married to have children. Today is a different situation. The definition of youth, which included men between the age of 17 and 70, was for the procreative activity. Thus, Arjun says that if all these men are killed, then who will father children? How the kul will continue? How the families will continue? Many women will become widows, and among them many will be expecting mothers. Who will show their children the right path? This will result in the decay of the family. And he in a way he's correct, because that's what's going on today. The family which is not together has problem. Children have problem. In turn, the religious practices of the families, kul, and their spirituality will be destroyed, and the entire kul will be overcome with unrighteousness. He goes on to say as to what this will lead into. Adharma bhevava krishna pradushyanti kulastriya striyu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankara. In that era, one man has to protect several women. Therefore, Arjun makes this point for not fighting by pointing out the fact that when all men will get killed in the war, who will protect the women? O Krishna, with increased unrighteousness, the women of the kul will become corrupted. Here Arjuna is not casting blame on women alone, but on both men as well as women. With this happening, mixed Varna offspring will be born. Since the women are young, the remaining men will use these women, and no one will know the dharma of the kul. Here we need to understand that during Mahabharata, the social situation was totally different what we have today. A story from Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 4, will make it easier to understand what Arjuna was trying to say. There has been a sage named Satyakam Jabal. He authored Vedic aphorisms. His mother's name was Jabala. Satyakam has a strong wish to study. During his journey in search for Guru, Satyakam went to ashram of sage Gautam. He goes to Gautam and expresses his desire to become one of his pupil. The sage asks Satyakam his gotra. What is your gotra? The name of the kul. That's what gotra is. Satyakam only knew that his mother, so he said to sage that he does not know, but he will go and ask his mother. See, it is the mother who knows as to who is the father of the child. She is the one who tells the child that this is your father. When Satyakam inquired his mother about his gotra, she replied that she does not know. She had served many places as a maid, and she had him during her youth. Therefore, she is unaware of her father and gotra. She told Satyakam to go and tell the sage that you are the son of Jabala, and your name is Satyakam Jabal. When he told this to the sage Gautam, the sage said, a non-Brahman and ignorant cannot make such a statement. Therefore, you are a Brahman, because you are telling the truth. So Satyakam, that's his name, Satyakam. He spoke the truth. And since you spoke the truth, therefore, you must be, your gotra is Brahman. Therefore, you are a Brahman, and I will accept you as my pupil. In that era, the rule was that if a woman became widow, she will go to the brother of her late husband, but not outside the family. This is what Arjuna is saying to Bhagavan Krishna, who he is addressing as Varshaneya. Varshaneya means descendant of the protector of Vrishni clan, Varshaneya. that you are there to protect your Varshaneya Kul. Why should I kill these people? The Hindu Dharma Shastra had placed more emphasis on the duties of wife, Pativrata Dharma, instead that of the husband. It may also appear that this was acceptable to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. However, this is not the case. It may appear that way, but this was not the case. In the 3rd chapter, Bhagavan Sri Krishna has defined what Varna Sankar is, which is different from what Arjun is saying right now. He says, Bhagavan Krishna says, Utside yurme loka nakurya karma chedama sankarasya cha kartasam uparhanya mima praja. Bhagavan says, if I, the Supreme Lord, will not perform my action, the action of Parameshwar is to free Jeev from the bondage of their action, which is called the moksha. So if I don't perform my action, these words means all humans will perish. I will be the cause of mix-up, sankar, progeny, and I will ruin all things, all beings. Here Bhagavan says that if he did not do his karma, all will do the same, following his example, which will destroy this creation. If one does not perform his action, his progeny will become lazy. Although Arjuna is talking about Varna Sankar, this is not acceptable to Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Bhagavan talks about Karma Sankar, not Varna Sankar. Do your karma. Don't try to do or copy somebody else's karma, because that's not going to work for you. So do your karma, which will produce this Karma Sankar. If there is Karma Sankar, this will produce those who will not perform their actions. This is what happened in this country with the emergence of hippie culture. So that's what happened, hippie culture. They did not, what is the karma of young people? To get educated, go do something and improve, work in the society, social system. But no, they changed, they became Varna Sankar. Bhagavan says that the destruction of Kula will not be due to women, as Arjun said. It will happen due to your own action. Here the emphasis is on Sankar. Sankar means crossing to. But on Karma Sankar, not Varna Sankar. He is emphasizing Karma Sankar, not Varna Sankar. But Arjuna is saying that offspring needs examples of the elders. Young people need example of elders to perform actions. He says that this should be considered, otherwise what will happen if we didn't do that? If there is no example left to show the young people what to do, what will happen? Sankaro narakayaiva kulagdhanam kulasya patanti pitaro hyosha luptapinda udakriya. Arjuna is saying that the admixture of caste or varna is a cause for the hell of the Kul and the destroyer of the Kul. That is what caused the destruction of the Kul, the dynasties. These destroyers of the Kul deprived the ancestors of the offerings of the rice ball, pind, and water, udak, the ritual of Shradd. There will be nobody there to do the Shradd. So all the Pitars, all those elders who have died before, they will not get, during Shraddha time, nobody is there to offer them the pind and udak. This causes their ancestors to fall from grace. Now that is the old Hindu belief. It's still going on. Here Arjuna is saying from Hindu Dharma Shastra, according to these, when one is born in a kul, they will accept and complete the ritual of the family. However, the people of mixed kul do not follow this because they do not know which kul rituals to follow. This needs further commentary. This we need to really think about a little more. Man either lives in the memory of the past or in the hope for the future. He does not live in the present. The youth lives on the aspiration for the future, and the old tend to remember the past, good old days. Both these live on their respective ways. That's what they do. Here Arjuna is implying that man learns from the past mistakes and lives on the hope for better future. If one does not have the ancestors, they will not know what their dharma is. They will be not having the benefit of the experience of the old people. This is why in old days all the ceremonies, in all these rituals, all the dharma ceremonies, there used to be a system where you have to remember, you have to call your names of the 8 ancestors in every ritual. Son of this, and then keep going on for the 8 generations. They were recited from both father and mother's side, not just father's side, mother's side too. So just like if there's Yagyopavit, that boy has to recite the names of all 8 ancestors from father's side and 8 from the mother's side. He's got to remember what is his past, where his lineage is. He need to know that. Today, this has been reduced to 3 generations only. Father and grandfather and great-grandfather, that's all. Not many people even know after that. I bet there are not many people who know their great-grandfather name either. In some places in India, like Gujarat and Maharashtra, father's name is made as part of one's own name. So Arjuna is saying that ancestors of these mixed castes will fall due to disappearance of the rice balls and offerings. The Shraddha ceremony will not be. Nobody is there to do even Shraddha, because they don't even know who their grandfather and 8 ancestors were, because this ceremony is done for the ancestors who have died in the past. Now we look at what is the rice ball and water offering, that ritual. In centuries, in this ceremony, people visit the graves and place flowers at the grave. In cemeteries, what they do? People go to the grave of their loved one and put flowers there. Those who visit graves and place flowers are the children of the deceased. Grandchildren rarely perform this action in today's time. In time, slowly the cemeteries also disappear. They are torn down, something else goes up there. Hindus do not bury their dead and have no cemeteries. Hindus have given importance to the name of the deceased, not the grave of the deceased. In Hindu Dharma, the body of deceased has no value. What is important is that person's name. That is why they said that one should remember the names of 3 generations. Name is more important, not that person. It used to be 8 before. This action is called Shraddha. In Shraddh, balls made with boiled rice are offered to ancestors with water in their name. So you got Ann as well as Jal, water. The reason for this is that man lives by grain, Ann, and water. And the ancient grain of Hindus was rice. That was first grain of Hindu is rice. It is said that if you give offerings in the name of those who came before you, your lives will continue. This is how one keeps going with this tradition. Arjuna is saying that this tradition will not continue because nobody will know their ancestors and how to do these rituals. All the men will be finished. Shraddh means to remember one's ancestors with reverence. That's what the meaning of Shraddh is. For this, Hindu makes a custom that once in the year they remember their ancestors and make offerings of boiled rice and water. For this, Pitru Paksh, a fortnight, was set aside during which time this is done. Thus, fortnight, this is Shraddh done. This fortnight is in the month of August, September. If one did not remember the day or the tithi, it was decided that they do it on the last day of the fortnight. So everybody, if you didn't know when ancestors passed away, what happened, when it happened, so the last day of the fortnight, everybody can do that ritual. Sage Patanjali in 1st century AD wrote in Mahabhashya that if one forgot the day on which to do this Shraddh, plant a mango tree in the yard, because every house used to have angan, courtyard, in the name of the ancestor, and during the Pitru Paksh make offerings of water and milk to the tree in their name. Because you see, what is important is the name. So you planted the tree in their name and then you made offering in their name to that tree. This way one can do two things at one time: water the tree as well as remember his ancestors. From this it appears that even at that time people had started to forget the name of their ancestors. That was 1000 AD. Here Arjuna is emphasizing the same thing. He says, Doshe rete kulajnanam varna sankar karike utsadyante jati dharma kuladharmascha shashwata. He says that because of these misdeeds, evil of the destroyer of the kula, produce mixture of caste, this results in destruction of the dharma of the kul and the caste. And he goes on to say, Ussatra kula dharmanam manushyanam janardana narke niyatam vaso bhavatitya anushasham. O Janardhan, I or we have heard that those men whose kul dharma is destroyed dwell in hell for the indefinite time. We understand that it is inevitable for them. Here Arjuna is saying that he has heard. He does not know for sure, but he has heard. And by addressing Bhagavan Shri Krishna as one who protects everyone, he is saying that you will agree with my view. He goes on to explain further, Ahovat mahatpapam kartum vyavasitadha vayam yadrajya sukhalobhena hantu swajanam uddita. Alas, it is said that we are resolved to carry out a great sin, in that we are prepared to slay our own kins out of greed for the pleasures of the kingdom. He is implying that war is bad for both sides, not just one side, both sides. And although we are wise, how have we brought ourselves to this sinful act? He states further, he says, Yadimam pratikaram ashastram shastrapanaya dhatarashtra rane hanyus tame kshema taram bhavet. If in the battle these sons of Dhritarashtra, with weapons in their hands, were to slay me, unresting and unarmed, that would be favorable to me. With this state of mind, Arjuna is asking Bhagavan Sri Krishna for his concurrence, for not fighting the battle with his opponents. He is saying that for me, unarmed and to be killed by the son of Dhritarashtra will be high value, since I will be following non-violence and prevent the destruction of my kul. Life comes and goes. So, after all this, Sanjay is saying, Eva muktva Arjuna Sankhye rathopavishat visrajyasya sasharam chapa shoka samvigna manasa. Sanjay says, speaking in this manner in the battlefield, situated between the two armies, Arjun with his distressed mind and in sorrow, casting away his bow, gandiv, and arrows, sat down in the rear part of the chariot. At the beginning of the chapter, Dhritarashtra questioned Sanjay that in the battlefield Kurukshetra, what Mai and Pandu's son are doing, knowing that they have gathered there to fight the war. What was the purpose of this question? The reason was Dhritarashtra twice exiled Pandav in jungle so that they will be in the company of saints, sadhus, and will start thinking in that way. It's like if you are in company, whatever company you keep, that's what you end up being in the long run. Thus, they will not ask for the kingdom. Once he sent Sanjay to persuade Pandav that they were wiser, so to prevent dispute, to let Duryodhan keep the kingdom. It is similar to what the Brahmin in Kashi says. If you go to Kashi, the Brahmin tells you, what he tell you? He says, you may die tomorrow, so do your dharma and give your wealth to me in alms. Dhritarashtra tried the same trick. However, Bhagavan Sri Krishna did not let this happen. Dhritarashtra also agreed to keep the battle in Kurukshetra, which was also the battlefield of dharma. Therefore, Dhritarashtra poses the question to see if his policy was successful. When Sanjay said that with distressed mind, full of sorrow, Arjun cast away his bow and arrow and sat down in the rear part of the chariot, Dhritarashtra was very pleased that his policy did work. This chapter is the first chapter in Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. It started with the worry of Duryodhan. Not Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was worried what is going to happen. That's how this chapter started. Trying to cover all bases, he sent Sanjay to preach Pandav the dharma and be sannyasi. Although Sanjay was telling Yudhishthir, the message was aimed at Arjun. Because if Arjun would not participate in the war will be over. Dhritarashtra will keep the kingdom and Pandava will never have a kingdom of their own. This activity in mind of Dhritarashtra resulted in Mahabharata. So what kind of thought Dhritarashtra had? Tamoguni thoughts. And those thoughts ended up, what was the result of those thoughts? Mahabharata came out of it. It did have an effect on Arjun. Whatever Sanjay told had effect on Arjun. And as is evident in the later part of this chapter called the grief of Arjun, the grief of Arjun resulted in Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. You see the difference? Dhritarashtra, his thought was about greed and taking things away, tamogun. What that resulted in Mahabharata, in Yuddha, destruction of his own children, everybody. But Arjun was grieving for what is going to happen. He knew what is going to happen. And from that grief, what came out of it? Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan Krishna started to tell him what is the right way. So there is a big difference. So this chapter is started with the worry of Dhritarashtra. It ends with the grief of Arjun. This is the grief that in this samsara we are not influenced by dharma. Today we are not influenced by dharma. The case of Arjun was an example. Here there are three things. First, that is the thought that of Arjun, what Arjun was thinking. Second, that he was talking big on dharma. And the third, that he was not influenced by it. This is the grief of us all. This is our grief too. The pursuit of dharma has been replaced by the pursuit of all material things. That's what the dharma is, which is reflected in the greed and violence today, in today's society. Dharma has changed. It has been changed by us to fulfill our greediness. In some religions, violence has become the primary activity to control people and impose their views on others. In other religions, other dharmas, the type of persuasion are employed to control people in their belief. There are other types are included. They are going to give money and do this or do that instead of killing. People, due to their ignorance, have forgotten that there is only one Ishwar. Everybody creates their own God these days. He is merciful to all. And what humans have been doing is to invent their own God. Interesting thing is that those who are considered God by humans have never said that they were God. In Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna time after time says to Arjun that I am the creator, I am Ishwar. After listening to the Gyan, Arjun understood that Sri Krishna, who has been answering his doubts, is none other than Ishwar himself. It is Bhagavan Sri Krishna who from time to time appears and imparts his knowledge to us. I sincerely hope that this effort will help us all to learn what Bhagavan wants us mortals to learn, so we all can be one with him. Iti tatsati Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Supnishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yog Shastre Shri Krishna Arjun Samvade Arjun Vishad Yogo Nam Prathamo Adhyaya. This completes the first chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, the best Upanishad and scripture for yoga. The dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjun, named The Grief of Arjun. Jai Sri Krishna.